At one point, we were all young and wide-eyed, and we all wanted to go really fast, but a lot of us realized pretty quickly that it's actually a lot of fun to go fast in a car that's not supposed to go fast. You can see this up in the canyon roads where you'll find the Ferrari guys driving at 20% throttle, constantly fretting about the chips in their shiny red paint job. They will be followed by a dude in a $1,200 Mazda Miata, foot to the floor, grinning ear to ear. There's an old saying that it's more fun to drive a slow car fast than it is to drive a fast car slow. I'd take that one step further. I think it's more fun to drive a slow car fast than it is to drive a fast car fast. I've had more fun driving my 160 horsepower Honda than I ever did in my ACR Viper. Motorcycles too. The Suzuki DRZ is basically a two-wheeled tractor, but I had more fun on that in the twisties than I ever did on my RC51. There are no twisties in land speed racing, but they do have a lot of different classes. Their smallest engine class for cars has a maximum displacement of 31 cubic inches. These are the slow cars, and if it's more fun to drive a slow car fast, then I'm going to take the slowest car. I'm going to make it go as fast as possible. Technically, this should be slow engine fast, since the car will be pretty fast just with a slow engine, but a car is not really a car without a powertrain, and slow car fast sounds better than slow engine fast, so I give you Project Slow Car Fast. Engine classes are designated by letters and broken up by displacement. The smallest engine class is the K class. As I said earlier, it tops out at just under 31 cubic inches. For those of you in metric or motorcycle land, 31 cubic inches is about 500 cubic centimeters. How big is 31 cubic inches? Well, let's say you bought a Corvette and chopped off 7 of the 8 cylinders, leaving you with a tiny one-cylinder engine. That engine would be too big for the K class. What if you pulled the engine out of one of those tiny Japanese microcars? Too big. Smart car engine? Too big. Tata Nano? Too big. What if you go back in time and get a VW Beetle engine from the 60s making 36 horsepower? 3 times too big. Even the engine that originally came with my tiny Honda S600 would be too big. There are virtually no car engines made in the last 50 years that are smaller than 31 cubic inches. You have to go back all the way to the original Fiat 500 or the very early Japanese K cars to find any car with an engine that small. It wouldn't even be safe to drive one of these cars on the road today because you'd be going so much slower than everybody else. So, how do you make this slow engine go fast? You put it in a streamliner. There are a few different organizations running land speed events, and we're going to be going with the Southern California Timing Association since they, along with the BNI, run most of the Bonneville Salt Flats events, including Speed Week, and all of the events at El Mirage Dry Lake Bed, which I guess you could call my home track. I will be designing a streamliner, and the rules for this class are basically unlimited. You have to have 4 wheels, not necessarily in a rectangle, and at least 2 wheels need to be covered. I believe this rule is just there to differentiate these cars from the Lakesters, which is pretty much just a streamliner with exposed wheels. Aside from that, all the rules are safety rules, of which there are just enough. So how fast can I go with a 500cc streamliner? The current record for this class is held by Jim Berkdahl at just over 200 miles per hour, so pretty fast. Land speed racing started to gain popularity in the 1930s, and it really exploded after World War II. You hear about some of the factory teams, and there are sometimes write-ups in the magazines about Bonneville, but it never really took off as a major racing series with TV coverage and celebrity drivers. I think this is great because the car racing is all about the cars. It's also a noticeably older crowd. This is not 22-year-olds vying for a seat. Most of these people have grandkids that are older than 22. This will be great for my channel since YouTube analytics tells me that you are statistically 10 times more likely to be over 65 than under 17. Anyway, if going 250 miles per hour in an upside-down canoe is an old guy thing, then I guess I'll be doing old guy things. All of this is to say that I don't know where land speed racing will be in 10 or 20 years. I don't know if there will be a new crowd of old people racing newer technology. The car world is changing, electrification, autonomy, and even the salt flats are disappearing. The racing surface is getting thinner and thinner each year, shortening the course and risking the future of the events. A thinning and poor salt surface caused Speed Week to be canceled entirely in 2014 and 2015. I don't think hot rodding or land speed racing is going away in my lifetime, but I do think that this is a kind of moment in time thing, and I am in this moment in time, so I'm going to be part of it. I've mentioned this project to several people and most of them have asked me why I'm not doing electric. There are a couple of reasons, but the big one is that I've just always wanted to do this smallest engine streamliner thing. There's just something really great about the idea of going as fast as possible with an engine that would be comically small in any other car. I like motorcycle-powered cars. I raced them in college, and I built this guy right here, which is just the best. And while electric stuff is new and neat, I still like internal combustion. Also, there are only 3 classes for electric vehicles split up by weight, and all 3 of them are stacked with some pretty serious records. There is a chance that at some point in the future I will pull the internal combustion engine and make this thing run on electric. In fact, I've sort of saved some packaging space for that possibility. It would be pretty fun to go after the slowest electric class. That record is held by a car designed and built by the students at BYU. Interestingly, the driver they chose to pilot that car was Jim Berkdahl, the same guy who holds the record for the smallest internal combustion car class. I don't know Jim, but I like him. Some of you have noticed that I have a BMW S1000RR engine sitting in my garage. You may also know that 1000 is twice as many as 500, and if I'm going to race in a class that limits my displacement to 500, 1000 is 500 too many. Fortunately, this engine is actually 4 250cc engines all connected together, so all I have to do is take out 2 spark plugs, replace them with dummy plugs, and I'm good to go. I ran this by the tech inspectors, and this seems to be a common practice among people looking to compete in different engine classes. Plugging up the spark plugs is not the best way to do this because the engine would still be pumping a lot of air for no reason, so I'll have to deactivate the valves. I think I can do this by just removing the rocker arms. That might work. I might also remove 2 pistons and try to rebalance the crank with dummy weights, but there doesn't appear to be a significant power benefit, and it might come with some concerns about engine balance. I'll dig into all of this later with a dedicated engine video, which I will answer all these questions, along with other questions like why not just start with a 500cc engine? I get asked a lot how far ahead of my videos I am with my projects, and the answer is usually not very far, less than a week most of the time. I've been designing this vehicle in CAD for a few months, but I just started putting things together a few weeks ago. The main safety structure is all tack welded together. That was actually super easy for reasons I'll get into in a later video. Most of the main metal structure is cut, albeit without triangulation and gussets. The CAD on this thing has gone through a few small iterations, a few big iterations maybe, and it's starting to solidify, although I'm still not 100% sure what I want to do with the front end. I could go with solid aluminum wheels, which gives some aero benefit, but has some less tangible drawbacks. I'll be doing some aerodynamic analysis over at AirShaper to see what effect this all has. I have bought a lot of things that are just lying around right now and several laser cut metal parts that have yet to be assembled. I will be leaning pretty heavily on send cut send for laser parts since I can get small orders from them very quickly. I love these guys. I don't know if I mentioned that. Typically, the engineering process looks something like this, where you define your goal, you do some basic designs, hand calculations, iterate your designs, move to computer simulations, iterate your designs, move to simple mock-ups, then prototypes, then build your release candidate, test that, and iterate. I'm kind of approaching this with what I call punk rock engineering, which is where you skip all the boring parts and just sort of guess what the final design will look like. Then you build it and test it, after which it should be pretty obvious why your design sucks, so you remake it, then you're done. This approach relies pretty heavily on engineering intuition, and I want to be clear here that engineering intuition is engineering in the same way that astrology is astronomy. If you've watched my video on Robin Schute's win at Pike Peak, you know that race car projects always take 3 times longer than you think they will. And you know that I know race car projects always take 3 times longer than I think they will. I think this project will probably take a while, maybe 6 months, which means that I'll actually be done around August of 2023. Here's the deal. Bonneville Speed Week this year starts on August 6th, which is 200 days away. Before that, there are 3 events at the slower El Mirage dry lake bed. The first one is May 14th, which is about 4 months out. Is 4 months enough time to design, build, test, and race a streamliner? No. But I think I'm going to try to do it anyway. I think if I focus on this project and manage my time, I can build a race car in just 4 months. No, I actually think, see, it's a pretty simple design. It's fairly straightforward. It's just... Why are you guys laughing? All I gotta do is weld up the frame, design the suspension, bolt it all together, wire everything, build the exhaust and intake, run the coolant lines, set up the fuel system, tune the engine, install the fire suppression system, the safety restraints, the parachute system, make a body, test it, paint it. I could do that all in 4 months. You guys are assholes.